Hello, and welcome to the Mentalk Ubuntu podcast. This episode is our welcome episode. You get to meet the three men behind Mentalk Ubuntu. We'll tell you a bit more about what the organization represents, what we're hoping to get, and what you can expect from the podcast episodes to come. We hope that you're going to join the community. Give us a follow on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you're connected with us. Let us know some of your thoughts. We're keen to connect, collaborate, and just get to know you. Hopefully you get to know us and some of our community members. First and foremost, this podcast and Mentalk Ubuntu would not really be possible if it wasn't for the funding that we received from the Phoenix Fund, which is associated with the National Lottery Fund. And we're very grateful for the help that they got in order for us to help promote a positive image of Black men and mental health in a way that isn't always done or that there's space for. We're very grateful that they decided to support our vision, and we're grateful for you tuning in, listening, and being part of the conversation and the community. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Chris and Ray, and myself, of course, Shai, who, as I mentioned, are behind Mentalk Ubuntu. So firstly, we might start with Ray. If you could tell us or tell the people what Mentalk Ubuntu is all about.
Hi, yeah. So Mentalk Ubuntu came to me during the pandemic when everybody was in isolation and lockdown. 2020 has really been a crazy year. I like to call it the year of Jumanji. So, by the time we came to, about July, it was, we were, level 42 of the Jumanji game. And right now, towards the end of the year, we're, coming up to, towards the end of the game, hopefully. We don't know what's around the corner, but how it all started in a nutshell was, a year prior, I hiked up Snowdonia with a few colleagues at the time, something I'd never done before. When I did do it, I had this sense of overwhelming and sense of achievement that I'd never had before. And then from there, I told myself, I need to do this again, but I need to put much more purpose. Fast forward into the lockdown, June, July time, I was thinking, I really want to do this, but what am I going to do it for? And one thing that also sparked it was, the protest in terms of Black Lives Matter, who we are as Black people and things like that. And one thing that really, struck a chord with me is that while in isolation, there was a lot of mental health crisis that was going on, especially in the Black community. So that's when that light bulb moment, I put two and two together, Black men and mental health, and on the other side, Snowdonia. But it wasn't just going to be a one-off event. It was going to be one, creating the environment for all us Black men to be congregated together, to lean, listen, and lead each other through, through the darkness, to basically break everything from taboos of mental health and stigmas that's also associated in the Black community, with the help of a therapist as well, to help us understand why we are the way we are, why we think, why we go through the transitions in life and behave the way we behave, why we more or less don't know how to speak about things, why we suppress things. So that was, in a nutshell, how it obviously got created. And then after then, I simultaneously went to Shai and Christian and told them that, I've got a vision in terms of what we can do now and also in the near future and beyond that. And I couldn't think of any other two people that I really wanted to be on this journey with. So once I told them what it was all about, they both, climbed on the boat and, just like Noah's Ark, we streamed down and well, we keep on going, shall we say. So, yeah, It's amazing. I mean, Christian, if you want to shed light in terms of your journey so far, in terms of ever since I told you that and anything else?
Sure. I can remember when you gave me the call and said, you want to go to Snowdon and you want it to be about mental health. And I was fully on board from the offset. And, we've just kind of bounced ideas, the three of us, and it's just kind of grown. The key aspect that, we wanted to bring to this was actually the mental health, really diving into what mental health means to us and providing that safe platform. So I think what we've actually tried to bring to it in terms of speaking to a number of therapists, having therapists lead the sessions and almost shaping the conversations that we're having. That was a huge step for me. And I think it was something that all of the participants really enjoyed. I think, mental health within the community or just sharing, talking about your problems is something that we don't do enough. And so any opportunity to actually come to the, meet up with strangers, we were strangers when we all met. Everybody that participated were strangers, but I think that platform and doing that and sharing has created a network, a community of friends. And I think that was quite powerful. So in terms of the future, really excited with some of the things we've got planned. Really excited to just really try and add some kind of value to this space. So what about you, Shai?
I'm in agreement with both of you, and all I'd say is for sure 2020 has been personally a year of emotional and mental health repair being paramount. Like I reached a place I've never imagined myself being in, and in fact, being connected with Ray was very appropriate for me earlier this year or earlier in 2020, because I needed someone there at a time, and maybe known to Ray, maybe unbeknownst, because again, we didn't really talk about it at the time. And so it was very helpful to have someone, like say, I could lean on, who would listen and just openly share some of what I was going through. And for various reasons, personally, professionally, all these things just culminated, and the pandemic maybe exacerbated all that as well. So personally, I was going through my own journey, and I needed for example, the Snowdon walk as much as anyone else. I did engage with some mental health professionals this year to help me get through some of the periods I was experiencing, because it was a very unknown and unusual period for me, very confusing. And so I could see the potential or the power of having a therapist or someone who's accustomed to dealing with people going through that on our walk, so that it wasn't just getting Black men on a walk. It's because obviously we were talking and looking at each other, and we're all Black men and we don't talk about this, but yet we'd come to the point where we were speaking about these things, and it was only making us stronger, if you will. We're only getting more out of speaking about them, and we're processing through and encouraging each other, and we just wanted to do the same. And I looked around and I thought my own personal network, especially where I'm based here in Manchester, I didn't really have a network like that. And so I saw it as an opportunity to strengthen my network, because that was one of the outcomes from, say, the treatment or the sessions that I had with the mental health specialist, that having a support network around you and having people who will encourage you, who you feel like you can open up to. And not just, it's because it's not all about just talking about what the bad things you're going through. It's also having other people who are pursuing positive things in their life and proactively seeking opportunities and doing stuff that will encourage you to do the same and keep your mind active. They will ask you to go for walks, and as you're walking, you tend to open up. So it was a wonderful opportunity for me, and to give the opportunity to someone else, I can only hope that I can do that even for one more person. And even now, I see it as potentially a really powerful way to make my relationships with even family members deeper and stronger. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I hope it's just the whole journey produces value for other people, and they get encouraged to join the community or to form their own communities or just get in touch with their communities and the people around them, not feel so isolated or alone with whatever they're facing.
So yeah, I'm quite intrigued because with what you said, you said you reached out to a therapist prior to even us going to, embarking on that journey. I mean, not many Black men are that courageous to, take that step to go and see a therapist and things like that. And if they are, from my understanding, it's always the case that they go once and after that they don't go. So, I mean, walk us through your actual process of what triggered it to, reach out to it and what that done for you as well.
I mean, well, thankfully, I work and I'm studying at Manchester Uni, so there is a well-being and counseling team and department. So I was always sort of aware of it, and I would refer students to it because I'm quite a positive guy. I'd consider myself quite resilient. So struggling with that isn't necessarily something that I would assume, or it's not something that I'm used to, right? So it was very unusual. That's why it left me quite confused. And essentially the confusion was everything was going well, bar the pandemic and having to be in lockdown, but there was nothing that should have really, in my head, been pushing me into feeling like I'm in a desperate situation or sending my mind into a dark place. And it just, to be honest, it scared me. Where my thoughts were going scared me. And because I was scared and I couldn't understand it, I actually sent an email initially trying to explain the confusion I was feeling and just reaching out to say, I don't feel so great. And sent the email, didn't think much about it, and thought by a few days later, because I sent it, I think, just before a weekend. And a few days later, they responded asking if I wanted to schedule it because I wasn't checking my emails frequently anyway. And yeah, I thought, okay, well, I'll schedule a call. By then I'm feeling up, and I was like, I called them or they called me. I was like, no, I'm okay, I'm all right now. But then they pressed me, or I should say the lady pressed me, and she just sort of said, well, talk me through what you were thinking and how you were feeling at the time that you sent the message, what was actually going on. And explicitly communicating my state and the darker thoughts, let's say, that I was having at the time, brought back the scariness of the situation. And at that point, I was like, okay, maybe we need to talk. And it became quite this cathartic feeling of letting someone know, because I hadn't really let anyone know at that point. And being asked those questions, who could you tell, or why couldn't you tell them? And you run through this list of people. And following that, just allowing me to have a few days to think about it, giving me options of potential treatments and ways that we could move forward and just have a think of what's appropriate. Even just telling me to tell my GP. I was like, what? My GP, I tell him about maybe if I'm feeling ill or I'm hurt and I need to get appointments, not if I'm not feeling mentally okay type thing. But apparently you're supposed to do that. So essentially, long story short, I decided to go on a couple-week treatment, if you will. Kept meeting up having a catch-up every week, reviewing activities that I'd had to do, steps I'd had to take, telling people at work, telling people in my family, all that sort of thing. And by the end of it, one of the things was obviously get your support network together. There were loads of things, loads of resources. So something like that.
No, thanks for sharing that, Shai. I'd probably say from when Ray spoke to me about this idea, the whole idea of engaging with a therapist or speaking with a therapist was something I wanted to kind of bring to the event, because it's not something that typically a lot of men in general would ever think to do, let alone Black men, because culturally it's not something that we're ever taught is acceptable. So just having that, courage to go out there and seek that is just an amazing an amazing thing. And it's I think if we do one thing with the event or with this group, it's trying to make that service accessible. And the conversations that I've had with the therapists about what we're doing and about the events, I mean, I've had a few conversations now where we're just talking about the event and planning things, and you're speaking with a therapist and they're picking up on certain cues and certain things you say and certain thoughts and beliefs you have. And they'll ask you certain questions that kind of stop you and think, I see what you're trying to do with this. And you just think, do you know what? Let me just give you an open, honest answer. And the conversations, you don't know where they'll take you, and they kind of grow. And after the conversations, you just feel like there's just such a burden that's been lifted from your shoulders. And these are just like conversations I've had in terms of planning these events. And it's something that I think everybody should have. We need to almost normalize the service of speaking. And I'm not saying it has to be with a therapist. It can be with a friend, a family member. But the key point is speaking and not just suffering in silence.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, like I say, there's therapists, counselors, advisors, there's all sorts of people, and there's family members, friends. There is a difference between a paid professional
Yes.
who knows what they're doing, just a friend, right? So just also bear that in mind. Like, you might give a friend something heavy and they don't know what to do with it. They might just say, hang in there. And that's not what you need. So just always bear that in mind. The choice is always yours, but it's to show, though, if you had a conversation with a paid professional, you sometimes know the questions to ask as well.
Yes.
So that allows you to do that.
Well, it's just like you said, we interact as friends a lot, but how often do we purposely try and go under the surface and say, do you know what, how are you doing? And maybe not take the first answer of, you're fine, let's move on. But no, how are you doing? How are you doing professionally? How are your relationships? Is there anything actually on your mind? And just be more mindful that when you are talking with your friends, even though they may seem happy, just do that check. Just do that sense check of how are you?
Yeah, there's a nice saying about listening with the intent to understand as opposed to listening with the intent to speak next. And so if you're genuinely listening and asking someone how they are, wait for the answer and dig deeper if need be, if your intention is to find out how they are and to understand where they're at and what's causing that. And if it's just they're great, find out more. I think on that note, this is going to be about the podcast, right? So what would you say the intention of the podcast is? What would someone listening to us now, when they tune in, what are we hoping that they take away? What's the value we're hoping people get?
I always think that one, we're being open and transparent. We're letting them know that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay for us to have these conversations, for us to know that, like I've said to you guys before, the same rain falls on everybody. And especially you being a Black boy or man, you always think that no one would ever understand. I wouldn't be able to outlay this and share my burden with anyone else for them to take it on. But in actual fact, that's actually wrong. You're your own worst enemy when you do that. And that actually works against you. But having this safe environment to know that it's okay not to be okay, to know that there's people out here who are going through the same things that you're going through, I kid you not, it just takes so much off your shoulder, and it allows you to feel better within yourself and know that you can obviously connect, share your problems, and as a result, you become a better person. Your mind is not so anxious. You're not so stressful. Your heart is not as heavy. You're more happy, and effectively, you can also do more for the people around you and your community.
Yes, yeah, for me, Shai, it's like you said, if one person can listen to it and it can take them from quite a negative place and help them and provide them tools to have more of a positive outlook, I think we've cracked it really.
I'd say the same. That's the intention is the same for me, and particularly really passionate about the upcoming generation or the younger generations having examples of people from all walks of life doing all sorts of things. So we're hoping that they'll be able to listen to some of these conversations and get an idea of all the other opportunities available to them, perhaps beyond what they've seen around them or just by hearing, because you might not be thinking that many years ahead, or you might not be aware of those kind of careers or ways of that you can start a company doing certain things. And I think from a place of understanding for anyone else who's listening, maybe you don't have many black friends or any black friends. And this could be one of the places that you listen and hear what the experience of a black man is like. And the fact that actually we're okay and we are all people, but now that you can hear people talking about it and their journey, you might change the way that you perceive people when you first see them. That might be for all of us. You might be someone who was born in the UK and you have a certain way of thinking about people who come from, say, Africa. And you might hear some of the people here who are in our community who come from Africa, and you might be surprised by what they've achieved and where they're aiming for. And it might change your view the next time you bump into someone in the gym or in the supermarket or, I don't know, on LinkedIn. And you might give them an opportunity, or you might be intrigued enough to ask them who they are, how they're doing, and connect. I think that for me is one of the positives, I hope, or the value pieces that people will get from the podcast.
Yeah, just to add on that, even though we're pressed for time, I totally agree with what you just said. It's creating that platform, especially for the younger generation, to know that there's other black men who are, in either successful places or that can help and guide you and steer you in the right direction. Because that's one thing I think, even as a black community, for the younger generation, is not there as much as it should be there. It's there, but it's only in pocket full of places kind of there. So it's also elevating, educating and elevating the future generation for bigger and better things to come. And more importantly, also having a purpose and identity as a black person, because I think this year has really sparked identity in all of us as black individuals. And something I said previously is that in regards to an article I read previously, it was basically saying something along the lines, in Africa, there's no such thing as a black person. It's not until you go into the Western side of the world, whether it's America, Europe, and things like that, you land, and from there, you're basically told, oh, you're a black person. And at the same time, you don't know your history. You don't really think to look for your history, find your identity, and give yourself purpose to know what direction you go in. So, yeah.
100%. And I think younger generation, but also older generation, one of the best things for me from our Snowdon walk, and hopefully what we'll get in future events, is connecting multiple generations together and having us in a room talking and being real to some extent. Because I don't feel like, other than a wedding or certain family functions, we don't tend to, I think, as men, just hang out together. And that's something I found really empowering when we were out, and very inspiring and informative, just to have this range of discussions from someone I would have perceived as young, half my age, and there's a lot that they're going through and they're doing that amazed me, and someone who's old enough to be my dad and hear what they're doing, and that was amazing, and other people my age, just all these different avenues. So love that with the event, and I'm sure we'll get more of it in future events. Looking forward to the opportunity of sharing that with other people via the podcast as well. So you can look forward to many perspectives, and encouraging you to expand your own network and community as well, which is great. So we hope you're going to follow us on Spotify and keep tuned into our podcast and add to the conversation. Be a valued community member. We'd love to have you, and follow us on the social media platforms to keep up to date with the events that we have planned. See if you can get involved, or if we can share tips of how you can organize your own. Connect with us and see what we can do. We'd love to hear from you. Chris, is there anything you'd like to say to the people before we sign off?
Just that I'm excited for the things we've got planned. I'm enjoying working with the both of you, and just watch this space.
Yeah, and finally, just to wrap things up, is dear listeners, dear young black boy, young black man, if you ever need to have a conversation and you want to keep it low key, please feel free to reach out to us, connect with us, join us, because the journey is absolutely phenomenal. So me saying it, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. I'm not just saying it for the fact of saying it, but it's a momentous journey that we're on, and it's going to be here for forever. It's not going anywhere.
Excellent. Thank you for listening. Just want you to know that you are important. It is okay not to be okay. And we're really glad that you're still here. So take care, tune in, and we'll speak to you soon. Much love from Mentalk Ubuntu, from me, Shai, Chris, and Ray, all my brothers on the Mentalk tribe. See you next time.
Thanks very much. See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed creating.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our latest episode and listen to any you missed. And tune in next episode.
Take care.